Ketrah, it's so wonderful to have you in the UK.
Thank you.
And we just wanted to take this time to hear in more of an in-depth way, because we haven't had the time to do that before, a little bit of your story. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and your family and what you do now.
Oh yes, my name is Ketrah. Greetings from my family.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm married to Armstrong. Yes, we have 4 children. Firstborn Esther is 20 years, David is 18 years, Deborah is 10 years, and Isaac is 5.
So you have a good spread.
Yes, I'm happy to be part of Karis.
Yes.
First of all, I gave my life to Jesus when I was 17 years. I was in high school.
And were you in high school in Kampala?
No.
Right, where did you grow up?
I'm a village girl.
Right, okay.
I went to one of our rural schools deep in the village. The place is called Rukunjiri.
Wow.
It is about 350 kilometers away from Kampala.
Okay, a long way.
A long way, yes, because I was born and raised from the village. I actually came to Kampala for university education.
Okay, right.
Yes.
And so before you get to that, tell us about how you came to give your life to Jesus when you were 17.
I was in a church-founded school, a Church of Uganda founded school, and we used to get preachers. There's an agency called Scripture Union in Uganda. I don't know if it's here in England.
Yes.
They are good with schools. So it was at one of the Scripture Union conferences. It's the Lord that worked it out really, because I hadn't even planned to go for that conference. I used to like bullying my friends and do all sorts of stubborn things at school, funny things. And if preachers came to school, because being a church-founded school, preachers always really came to school. Actually, even right from primary, I was in church-founded schools because my mother was a strong Christian, so she took us to Christian schools. And so I would just go behind, sit back and make fun of preachers, tickle my friends. But this time around, there was a conference, a Scripture Union conference. You know, schools would get together, very many schools. This time around, where it was going to be held was near my home, my home. So I planned to sweet talk our patron, go with the team, then sneak out. Sneak out from the conference and go home and have some goodies and then sneak back. And it worked. So they let me go. But getting there, I actually did sneak out that very first day. We were there for a weekend. I sneaked out and went home. Getting home, there were issues at home. My parents had had a fight and my mother had run away from home. It was so devastating. I felt so bad. I cursed but the Lord was preparing my salvation. So I had no choice but to go back and be bored in the conference. So I was seated there and there was this man of God who preached the gospel, and it hit me, and I just decided that day. They made an altar call. So when they gave that opportunity for people to come to the Lord, I was the only one that got up. And the girls screamed because they thought I was just doing drama.
Okay, they thought you were faking.
They thought I was faking.
Okay.
Because I was faking to be a good girl. So I just went for it. But I was serious deep in my heart. I was in senior 5. So I just moved forward. They prayed for me. I think at some point another person joined in, but they said, we are giving her weeks. We are giving her days. We'll give her weeks. But I was serious. And the Lord has been faithful.
Wow.
I've not been so faithful, but the Lord has been faithful.
Wow. And so, your school, senior school, was that a boarding school?
It was a boarding school.
Right, and was that far from home?
It was about 30 kilometers from home.
Right.
In Uganda, most of secondary schools, they have that boarding section.
Right.
Because there are so many things, dynamics of commuting between home and school, you can be distracted.
Yes.
So
you just not get there.
Oh yes. So
and what age were you when you went to boarding school, to secondary school?
Right from senior 1, I was 13.
Right. Okay.
Yes,
Wow.
I was 13, 14 thereabouts.
Wow. And then you went to university?
Oh yes.
Was that straight from school?
Straight from senior 6.
And that's how you landed up in the capital?
Oh yes. That's how I landed in Kampala.
And what did you study at university?
I studied, did education. I'm a teacher by training.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, I teach high school. I actually taught for 1 year.
Right.
I teach economics in that same school.
That you had.
So after university, my school called me back.
Right.
I was.
You must have made a good impression as a student.
By the grace of God. By the grace of God. So they needed me back.
Right.
So I went and taught for 1 year. But at that time, the government was not enrolling teachers. There was a ban. So even when you are the only economics teacher in the school, you wouldn't get government pay.
Right.
Just on allowances, it was hard.
Okay.
So God opened a door after 1.5 years thereabout. You've heard of Compassion International?
Yes.
Yes, they opened projects in that area.
Right.
So I gave it a try.
Right.
And they took me on.
Wow.
So I worked there in the village for about another 1 hour, rather 1 year.
Right.
I served as a project director in one of the churches.
Wow.
Then in 2001, I got married.
Hey. And where did you meet Armstrong?
We met at university.
Okay.
We met at university, at church.
Right.
Serving in church. So right from high school, when I joined university, I remained a Christian.
Yes.
Yes, and I got involved in ministry.
Yes.
We had mission teams at St. Francis Chapel. We are still members of St. Francis Chapel, by the way, many years down the road.
Wow. So you joined there as students?
Yes.
And then you've been there for most of the last 20 years?
Yes. We are involved with church. We are into premarital counseling now.
Wow. Fantastic.
Yes. So, mission team. So we met on mission ground with Armstrong.
Wow.
Yeah, we went around preaching the gospel in schools, singing. I love singing.
Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
sharing our faith.
And so when you got married,
we had
moved back to the capital and you had children?
Oh yes.
Right.
I moved back and then taught a bit again, and then later got into a compassion project again at All Saints Cathedral.
Right.
Where I met Bishop Zach.
Oh yes. Now Bishop Zach is one of the key.
He's a founder, a co-founder.
To start Karis, wasn't he?
Yes.
And tell us a little. So were you there right from the beginning?
I was.
Tell us how it happened from your perspective.
Now, in this the project where I was serving, it was more of a child sponsorship.
Yes.
And with child sponsorship, we were helping one child, one family. 1 child per family.
Yes.
And for some time, it was a concern for me. It was a challenge. So I had my discomforts.
Because there were other children in the family.
Yes.
Who were not being helped at the same time.
Helped. Yes.
Right.
And especially we looked out for the orphans. So if you had an orphan in your family, and you're also struggling, we would still not help the cousins of this orphan, just help that one child.
Right.
And we had issues like, we give them medical care and school, pay for the education. But if that one child, if there was like an outbreak of malaria and the family, maybe more than 2 people had malaria, you give malaria dose to this one child. So they would end up sharing.
Right.
We spread the doors and no one is helped.
Yes.
You know, so...
But they weren't able to fund the whole family?
No, the policy had no provision for that.
Right.
And then schooling, you pay tuition. But there are many other things around tuition. A child has no school uniform. If you have no school uniform, you can't be allowed in. If you don't have books and pens, you wouldn't be allowed in. So when I was there, then I met Bishop Zach on the other side, together with the Pepiats,
yes.
Tim and Pippa.
Yes.
I don't know how they met, but somehow they met. And I've never asked Bishop Zach who told him about me because I was just handpicked.
Right.
I don't know how he got to know about me, but
presumably you were working in a project based at the cathedral.
Oh yes.
And he had some he was the bishop of
He was the
Kampala,
bishop. He was the bishop, yes. But you know, when you're a small person down there, a bishop may not necessarily notice that you're around. But somehow, one morning, I'm seated in my office and I see 3 people walking, the bishop and the Pepiats.
Yes.
So I stood and welcomed them and they asked me a few questions and that was it. He was just going round with the Pepiats and greeting people. So 2 months later, I get a phone call from the bishop's PA. Said, are you in the office? He said, yes, please. Bishop Zach would like to talk to you. What have I done?
So you were summoned to him?
I was summoned to his office. So I ran upstairs and there he was with the Pepiats. So I joined in a conversation. They were talking about the possibility of establishing a ministry that would be more of like a partnership to preach the gospel of Christ, where churches would partner and then families would also partner through these churches to preach the gospel of Christ to marginalized, to vulnerable people in the slums of Kampala. There's a lot I didn't understand, but one thing for sure that came through for me was the fact that they were thinking of helping a family as an entity.
Yes.
And so I ran with that.
I presume that was a new concept.
It was.
In the area that you were working. You were saying that, you know, you've been working with Compassion and presumably there were other agencies as well.
Yes.
Who were all trying to help the marginalised and the orphans and the poor children. But nobody else was doing this model where they would help the whole family. Is that true to say?
Whole family, yes.
Yeah.
Whole family.
And that was the concept for Karis.
And the beauty of churches working together. Churches working together.
Yes.
So it's not like one church is coming to like steer the show or we are here to fix it for you, but the beauty of working together. And then there was a talk about institutionalized care, helping children through children's homes, which I really didn't like, which I did not like.
Right.
And so I really liked the uniqueness that was in this ministry that they were thinking about. I shared my views and ran back to my work, to the office. I did not know what else they were thinking about. Like 4 months later, I get another phone call to say, come, we are good to go. Can you please write some concept about the other conversations we had? And so I sat at Bishop Zach's feet. He shared his heart. I wrote down. About 16 years down the road, here we are.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so when you started, how did you start? How did you get going? Because now there are 5 or 6 church partnerships.
Yes.
And hundreds of, I don't know how many families. And you were saying yesterday that you've seen 810
people
grow through.
Grow through.
That's the children. and the carers?
Together with the carers, everybody.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
But you kind of started with 810 people.
No.
How did you find the first ones? And
Yes.
was that your job to go and find the right people?
Yes, it was my job.
Yes.
First of all, to write down, to be able to visualize what we want to do.
Yes.
So I had to write a concept document,
Yes.
defining what it is. Then we thought of a name. How the name Karis came about. The couple, the Pepiats, they have it was a little girl then called Annie Karis.
Annie Karis, yes.
Yes, she's the inspiration. She was the inspiration behind their vision for vulnerable children in Uganda. I think herself, she had some challenges. Her birth was not like, there were some
Not
issues.
Yeah.
Actually, they say if it were not for this country, probably she wouldn't have made it.
Right.
And so Anne Karis, as a little girl, she had, maybe through the stories, I don't know, but somehow she developed a heart for a disadvantaged child in Africa, in Uganda. So she started saving money. She surprised her parents one day to say, I hope that one day something will be done for these vulnerable children in Uganda. And so as we thought about the name, Karis, we thought, let's name it after Karis. I understand it's derived from a Greek word which means God's grace.
Yes.
So Karis was the name.
That's where we get the term charismatic.
Okay.
Which means the gifts, the gracious gift, the gifts of God's grace.
Yes. And now that we are looking at families, so we settled for Karis Family Link Ministry. That's what we call it in Kampala. Yes, and so I did the paperwork. We had to have a vision, objectives, what we want to achieve, and the methodology, how to get it done. So I wrote that concept paper, we discussed it and agreed on it. So we said, okay, so how do we get started? June 1, 2006 is when I reported for work officially. Yes, so I made a budget. Then we started enrolling families. And we had said yes, like we actually doing, linking the churches. We had to work through the churches. So we looked at some of the churches that are in the slums within the Diocese of Kampala. And Kamocha was one of them. And so we worked with the vicar to look through his community if there are people like we were describing on paper. And yes, there were. So I bought a camera, went around, took pictures, profiled the families, and sent them through. And then on this side, the Pepiats were also working hard, but they had to register it as a charity. So Karis Kids UK was registered in 2007 as a charity. And then I think they were worshipping here then.
Yes, they were.
Yes. So they mobilized their friends, and this was the very first church link with St. John's Church, Kamocha, and the very first families to link were from this church.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes. Wow. And
I know that there was a trip and Kathy O'Connor went and
yes. Teams of people.
Yes, Hugh, who was the pastor here before us.
Hugh Cryer.
He went as well, didn't he?
Yes, he did. We had teams and teams of people flying in, coming in to see what it is that we are.
So when we came here in 2011 to become the pastors.
Oh yes.
To take over from Hugh and Ginny. I had no idea that it had only been going 4 years. It just seems so established. I came to a Christmas party. Either 12 or 14, I can't remember off the top, but one of the, and everything just seems so established. So many families, so many links. So obviously, it's a long-term ministry, and I'm imagining that when you started, Most of the children involved were quite young, were primary age.
Primary age.
And you were part of the project, part of this partnership is to help with them with education. So that why is it so important for children in the slums in Kampala to be able to get to school? Why is that? Why is that a big priority?
Wow. You see, like, I don't know if it's different from here, but in our country, in Uganda, education is the way out.
Right.
You have no shortcut. You have to have a skill to sharpen your competitiveness.
Right.
And I think you can never, the quality of people, I mean, if you don't have any skill, if you can't do much. And so bringing it down to Karis ministry, these children, they are like trapped in poverty. And to break the cycle, you've got to go to school, to be exposed, to be equipped, have a skill, so you can you can produce something, you can contribute. Yes, so there's no other way. So when we first began, we thought we would only see them through primary school education. Like, make our contribution and just bless them to carry on. But reality caught up with us that after primary 7, a child cannot do much.
Right.
They are young at that. They have not made 18, most of them, by primary school completion. And so, and then taking it back to the vision, our vision is we want to see a vulnerable child that is completely transformed into self-sustainability.
Wow.
And so if you cannot be gainfully employed, if you cannot be part of the labor force, you can't do much. So
after 16 years, you must have seen some children come through that whole journey. Can you perhaps tell us about one or two of them and their stories?
Yes, and this link being the oldest, we have many families that have now graduated.
Right.
We
The
have
whole
women,
family has gone.
a whole family is
Wow.
now better. For example, Margaret, is this lady called Margaret. She was deep in the slums with nephews and nieces and her own children. But when we came in, the children were helped through primary school and then vocational training. Some of these children, when they start school late, like they're too big for age and too big for class, they want a quicker way of getting through training. So most of them did vocational training. I remember Wile, her son, he did motor vehicle, he trained in motor vehicle mechanics. Wile got a job with some factory. Margaret decided, as we give food, we give them food. We pay for their health. They get encouraged. They work hard and save some money. The financial relief. And so Margaret worked so hard, she started saving some money, and then we helped her relocate from down in the slums to a drier place now. She now owns a home. Wile is working hard with her mother to support the rest of the family. We constructed a pit latrine for her. You know pit latrines here? Yes, gave her some small grant to start a business. She's off the program. She's living an independent life. Another one is Alice Bukirwa. We weaned her off about 4 years ago. This girl, Jessica, I think she was in primary 7 when we started, but they were struggling. I think she would have dropped out of school at some point. It is a bad thing when you are chased for school fees. It is a bad feeling. I've ever been chased from school for non-payment, and I know it is ugly. You don't like it.
Yeah.
And so Jessica was a very bright girl, but they had issues of school fees. And so when we took on the family, Jessica was able to go to school. She did so well. She went to university, completed her degree in development studies. She's now working, she's married, she's living on her own. And then her cousin, William, he trained in motor vehicle mechanics. The boys really love mechanics because today we have 76 children who have completed school generally, but 17 of them trained in motor vehicle mechanics. Yes, so William completed his training and the family was weaned off.
Wow. You said 76 have completed school, but if they're then supporting the family, there are other children, younger children perhaps, still in the family?
Oh yes.
But they don't need the support of Karis anymore? You wean them off, it goes, gradually it happens.
Yes, not that they no longer need support,
right,
but they are now in a better state.
Right.
The economic status has improved.
Yes.
Now they have hope.
Because they have somebody who's earning money in the family as well.
Yes, yes. And they're also running some business.
Wow.
Well, it's not like they are now rich people or what, but they are able to stand and struggle just like we all do.
Wow.
Yeah, like life normalizes.
And how do you see the next few years going for Karis? How do you see it developing?
Oh, that's a good one. And so I thought about that, and I realized we are not documenting enough. So we have invested into in writing down the stories. Right. We did an operations manual, a manual that shows how work runs. So in my absence, whoever comes in, they're able to carry on. And then here we are. We would like more families. We would like to raise more families from here and from all over the place. But we are also thinking, this is a dream and a prayer item, that if we could establish like a skilling center, a Karis skilling center, this would be a huge project. Like a school where we can have, currently we are supporting 296 children in school, and these go to about 75 schools. Right. So that increases our workload. So if we can have them all in one place, like a secondary school place, a boarding place, and then we have a vocational training site. Yeah. We think it would even reduce, it would also double as a campsite, a camp center, and that would reduce the costs. Yeah, we spend a lot of money on venue for camp. Yes. A lot of money is spent, about 40 million Uganda shillings. Wow. To host 300 children for a week. That's a lot of money. So we're thinking a skilling center would really help in cutting those costs and influencing the quality of education. We are passing on the children. Yes, it's a big dream. It's a big dream. But also increasing, raising more families. We are even thinking, can we raise some families from Kampala? Because in Kampala we have families that are really privileged. Right. We are thinking through. Oh, do you mean local families who have some resources would partner with other families in Kampala? Right. That's our dream. So we are here to work out how that would happen. Ketrah, just tell us a little bit about the family-to-family link and how that operates in Karis. So about the family-to-family link, like I earlier said, it is a relationship. It is an opportunity to preach the gospel, to share the gospel of Christ as families. So there's a lot of doing life together, even when you're far away from each other. So praying for each other, exchanging letters, sharing life experiences. So resources, yes, they come in, like the finance bit, but it's not like the main thing. So encourage these families to get into each other, to come and visit those who are able to come, so that you experience the love of Christ, even when you are in different worlds. Yes. I know the families in Kampala, the Link families, the families that are being supported, they don't have much materially, but I believe they have something to offer, something to share. They pray for you, they share love, I think it's an amazing arrangement.
It's a beautiful thing. Karis is such a beautiful thing. We're almost out of time, I think. Is there anything else that you wanted to say?
I want to say thank you. All these stories that we are proud of, it's largely because of you, as Winvin in particular, for allowing this baby Karis to be born during those formation years. And here we are. I really want to say thank you so much. Brian, one of the very first children to graduate as a telecommunications engineer. Brian is amazing. He did so well. He was given a company car in like 2 years. I meet this big man in town and he's hooting and like, who is this? Auntie Ketrah. I said, wow, this is a Karis supported child. He's a big man, he has a beautiful family, he's supporting his mother and cousins. Really, thank you, all because of you. We have many testimonies of people falling down in tears of joy saying, Karis restored my hope. I now feel like a human being. Life is normal. Life has meaning. I almost let go. I was at the verge of giving up on life. But because of this love that I have found in Karis, I'm ready to live again. And I think that is humbling. That has been very humbling for me. And that's what has actually kept me going over all these years. I didn't know I would stay for this long. But people's testimonies. I am one of the very privileged ones to get all these testimonies. You see someone walking in, just grabbing you, and then they begin to cry. You cry along, and then after they say, thank you. Thank you. Somebody told me I've ever cooked banana peels for my children. We used to feed on banana peels for a meal. Just create a sense like you've eaten something. And somebody said, I can now take my ARVs very well, like I said yesterday. Those things, they keep running in my... Then those who have gone through big surgeries, medical surgeries. I had no way out. I was dying of hernia. If this ministry was not there, I don't know, maybe I would have died. So this ministry, it has really humbled me. Sometimes I think, this social work, I'm now so used to it. I can no longer cry at people's testimonies. But I'm wrong. I always find myself in tears as people share their lives. Somebody said, I almost let go. Young girls come to my office and say, Ketrah, do you remember this day? Do you remember when we stood there? That is where we stood. Do you remember you prayed for me? I can't remember. I can't say. Now I'm happy. I have a job. I'm through school. I have really stood because of you. But it all comes back to you for partnering in this ministry that I'm seeing all these stories. So thank you.
Thank you to you. Thank you. We feel a very small part in it. But thank you for sharing your story.
In fact, at some point we thought, we hit 100 families around 2010, 2011. From 2006, in 4 or 5 years, we had hit 100. But we went slow on looking out for more families. Said, no, let's first farm it up. Then we went deep now. Deep, not just going through paperwork and counting numbers. Said, let's really, they are part of us. They are part of us. We know what is happening almost in everyone's life. Yes, so we counsel them, they share with us deep stuff. And so we went deep and wide, broadening our scope in depth and breadth. And no wonder really, they feel, they share with us stuff, sometimes very overwhelming. We have encouraged the vicars to help do pastoral oversight and counseling, but they still go around and come to us. So I really thank God for that opportunity.
What a privilege. Thank you very much. I'm so
thank
grateful
you.
for you doing that.
And thank you for your time.
It's no problem. Bless you.